Welcome into the set of Daily Wager here in Las Vegas at the link overlooking Caesars. I am Doug Kazarian alongside Joe Fortenbaugh. We're going to dive deeper into a few games here as we approach week 3. Joe, Pat's laying 5.5 to the undefeated Las Vegas Raiders here in town. What do you make of this line?
Hate to do it here locally, but I've got no problem laying the points with the Patriots in this situation. Look at the spot for the Raiders. You're off a historic win. It's a short week. You're traveling across the country. It's an early start time. You have the 26th ranked total defense, 20th ranked scoring defense. Cam Newton looks awfully good in this Patriot offense. And as you have pointed out so many times before, my friend, Bill Belichick off a loss in his career, 51-26 against the spread. Everything lines up for the Patriots here. I'm laying the point.
Yeah, that's a pretty ridiculous number. I just trust the Patriots more. I think the Raiders, despite being undefeated, that win against Carolina and even the win against the Saints, no Michael Thomas. I'm not saying it's fool's gold, but this is a tougher ask going into Foxborough. I'm laying the points as well. Let's bring in Stanford Steve in a game you've been discussing all week. You got the winless Falcons. They're laying a full 3 to the undefeated Bears. Why are you so up in arms over this?
Well, why is an 0-2 team giving points to a 2-0 team in a stadium that has no fans, Doug? Somebody knows more than I do. I have no problem giving credit to people that have more information or know something more than I do. So I'll take the Falcons here. They're the only team in the NFL that has 4 receivers over 100 yards receiving in 2 games. I understand what happened, but when you look at it, I didn't expect them to win the first 2 games of the season. I understand what happened last week. If Julio Jones catches that pass, there's no onside kick late in the game. But I know the Falcons' defensive stats are not good. They've given up 9 touchdowns and 10 red zone drives to the opponent, but they're playing against Russell Wilson and the Cowboys' offense. I expect that. I think things will be a little bit different against Chicago and Mitchell Trubisky's offense. So I'll lay the 3 here with the Falcons.
You know, I want to follow up on that because they didn't just lose. They lost in excruciating fashion with that onside kick recovery. And you've obviously played big-time college football. We got to play a little amateur psychologist. How do you think the Falcons are going to respond with such a deflating loss and a coach that's been on the forever hot seat, right? I mean, Dan Quinn's that's been a stench that just still lingers in the locker room.
I look at it as those guys in the locker room know what happened on that onside kick. I mean, you haven't heard a bad thing out of there all week. You could promise that they practiced the situation. The special teams coach went over the situation. Coach Quinn knows that they went over the situation. So at some point here, guys, the players have to take some of the blame. And I understand the coach gets all the negativity and bad talk about him. That's what we live in. Head coaches know they're going to get that. And I know it starts back from the Super Bowl that he blew at a 28-3 lead. But I think there's enough veterans in that locker room, starting with Matt Ryan, who's been tremendous to start this season, that I think he takes that locker room and says, guys, it's over with. We've had worse losses in the past. It's 1 game out of 16. It's a long, long season. And we haven't had any preseason games, so we still have some room to work with. I mean, the Saints didn't look too hot on Monday night, so you got to feel like the Falcons are still in this. I think they have enough veteran leadership. I love Matt Ryan as a player and as a guy that's a face of a franchise. So I expect big things from the Falcons this week.
Oh, yeah, not going to let it linger for the next week. And as you mentioned, it is a long season, and we're still very early in that. Let's bring in Tyler Fulgham now. Tyler, Titans a short road favorite against the Vikings. Minnesota obviously limping out of the gates 0-2 and not looking really good at all. Which side are you on here?
Yeah, I feel very comfortable laying the 2.5 with the Tennessee Titans. Let's start with this. Your guy, Doug, Ryan Tannehill.
Yes.
He appears to be the real deal.
Oh, yeah.
Follows up last year with a 2-0 start. Last week when they needed him to show up, when Jacksonville made it a feisty game, 4 touchdowns and 10 yards per attempt. So, again, just get away from Adam Gase and your career can be revived. That seems to be the case for Tannehill. I trust him way more right now than Kirk Cousins. Remember that scene from Mad Men where Pete Campbell goes into the elevator and some rando, hey, Pete, how you doing? Not great, Bob. Well, if you ask Kirk Cousins, who's not quite as terse as Pete Campbell, I don't know if he'd be that kind of uppity about the response, but it's not going well for Kirk Cousins. I don't like what he is doing. He's been awful so far this season. Now he gets a good Tennessee defense led by Mike Vrabel and Jadeveon Clowney getting after him. And the biggest benefit that Minnesota had when they played at home, US Bank Stadium, was the 75,000 large that would scream and make life difficult for the opposition. That's no longer a factor. Tannehill's going to be able to make checks at the line of scrimmage. He'll be able to feed the big dog, Derrick Henry, who now gets to run against a defense that's not only missing Danielle Hunter, but they put Anthony Barr on IR as well. Everything that can go bad for the Vikings is going bad. So again, 2.5 just doesn't seem like it's enough of a head start for the Minnesota Vikings. I feel comfortable laying it with the Titans. I think they win by more than a field goal on Sunday.
All right, so Kirk Cousins asked you if you like that. The answer is no. You do not like what he's been doing so far in this one. All right, let's go out to the tri-state area and bring in Anita Marks. Anita, Joe and I like the Patriots here against the Raiders at home. Are you with us or against us?
I am so with you. Really quick before that, just talking about this Tennessee game, no Anthony Barr. I love the over in receiving yards on Jonnu Smith, by the way. I think he has a big game. For the Patriots, I'm looking at this team. Man, they are 27-8 after a loss in this decade, and it was a really disappointing loss against the Seattle Seahawks. Meanwhile, they're sitting back. They're waiting for the Raiders after a big win at home. They open up their new stadium. Short work week. Now they have to travel across the country to Foxborough to take on a Bill Belichick team that's coming off of a loss. No bueno, as you know I like to say, Doug. On top of that, what do we know that Bill Belichick likes to do? He likes to take one player out of the equation for the opposing offense. I think that's going to be Josh Jacobs. He's the straw that stirs this drink for the Raiders. They take him out. They're going to make Derek Carr and that lackluster wide receiving core try to beat them. I don't think it's happening. I say lay the points as well. I guess all three of us are on the same side.
All right, so that's okay. Doesn't scare me at all. Let's bring in Preston Johnson, a pro bettor here. And, we lean on your math models, Preston. Saints, a 3-point favorite against the Packers. Obviously, New Orleans did not look very good the last time we saw them Monday Night Football. Michael Thomas was out. Packers have looked good out of the gates. Highest scoring team in the NFL. Who are you backing, Rodgers or Breeze?
I'm going Breeze at -3. It's cheap, and it's because you mentioned. I think it's a pretty relatively good, at least, sell high spot on the Green Bay team, and then a buy low on the Saints that we saw in Las Vegas. That opener for Las Vegas against the Raiders, losing outright. You look at those first two games, and I think where the real, fraudulent side of this is Green Bay. Their first game, they end up scoring 40-something points against the Minnesota Vikings team that was hampered defensively entering the season and just isn't as good as they were a year ago. We've seen that. They did the same thing against Indianapolis that following week. And then in week 2, they get a Detroit Lions team, the secondary missing 5 guys to injury, and they have to go 42, I think, again in that game. And that was the same secondary that gave 21 straight up in that fourth quarter to Mitch Trubisky. So I'm not really sold on what Green Bay's done. At least they're doing it, and Aaron Rodgers has kind of revived himself. But the competition here is just a different story. Even as weak as that New Orleans Saints secondary looked against the Raiders, I think they're going to bounce back. It was mostly the run game I thought that gave Las Vegas the edge in that game. They were able to control it. And I know Drew Brees and other narratives about his arm not being able to throw as far and are they going to be able to move the ball. Look, the Saints should not be only -3. They're the better team. They're playing at home here. I think it should be closer to 6. I have it like 5.7 projected. You mentioned the model. If you want to account for Michael Thomas, sure, he might not play, then maybe that comes down slightly. But also, Devontae Adams is probably going to be playing not 100% if he even goes for Green Bay. So for me, I think -3 is a clear buy on the Saints and a sell on the Packers.
All right, sounds good, Preston. Thank you. I think this entire week, Joe, we're going to learn a lot about some teams. We're going to learn a lot about the Packers finally facing a tougher opponent. And we're going to learn a lot about the Buffalo Bills. Look, you can only play the teams ahead of you, which they've done, and they're 2-0 out of the gates. But according to ESPN's FBI, have the toughest schedule remaining the rest of the season of any team. Got the Rams in town. We're going to learn about the Rams, too. Nice 2-0 start. Couple plays here and there. It's 1-1, maybe even 0-2 if things don't go that well against the Eagles. They have to go cross country a couple. We're going to learn a lot. I don't have a pick in that game. We're going to learn a lot about those two teams in Orchard Park on Sunday.
The win over Miami was a great confidence booster for the Bills, especially for Josh Allen, who was as accurate throwing the ball down the field as he has been at any point in his young career. That's a big boost for this team heading into their biggest game of the season to date against a Rams team that has looked fantastic in its first 2 games of the season.
We'll see if McVay has really helped Goff go to the next level, so to speak, in his development. Hey, schedule change this week, beginning Tuesday, Daily Wager, before all the playoff action throughout the day. Tuesday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern on ESPN2 and also streaming live on the ESPN app.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.